right, that's the one that was having issues. That's okay. We'll skip on past it. All right, we got all the streams we're going to get up. So welcome in. It is the 16th of May. We're halfway through May, and it's time for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell, and joined by, as always on these morning shows, Scott Kennedy. Scott, how goes it down in Atlanta? We had a classic Midwest thunderstorm roll through here last night in Seattle, and the temperature went from like 88 to 55.
It's all right. Kids are starting to get spring fever. It's warming up.
Okay.
Luckily, they get out of school early down here, so they get out next week. But they go back early. When we lived in New Jersey, they got out late, like the end of June, and then we moved to Atlanta, and they started at the beginning of August. We didn't mention anything to my second grader at the time. He figured it out quick. What? I totally got hosed. Yeah, buddy, you missed a month of summer. I know. I'm sorry.
Man, that he did get hosed. God,
Yeah, he did.
That's a bummer. Well, hopefully he's okay with it schedule now. I mean, out here in Seattle, summer doesn't really start until like July 4th, July 4th through like July 15th. So like that later one would be better, really, because that's when it's
and here summer ends like August 1st because it's too damn hot to go out and do anything.
Yeah.
So I'd rather be out in May and then have May and June and July, and then August is just August and September are like, all right, August is too hot. September, let's get back into some industrial air conditioners.
I got you. And September out here is when it's nice, as long as the wildfire smoke isn't existing yet. But let's say hello to some people in the chat. We got Donald Willison coming in, a recent contributor to the show. We appreciate you, Donald. Says, good morning, Nick and Scott, Broncos country. Nick, I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking yesterday. Off to physical therapy. I'll be listening. Gave us a kiss too. He says, moi. Thank you so much, Donald. We appreciate that. Sometimes it's good to be loved.
An evil laugh.
Oh, I preferred the kiss.
Yeah. And I'm the evil laugh. So that makes sense. We just summed up the podcast personalities with one post.
Well, Donald, hope PT is going well for you. I know that's a lot of work to get out there. So hopefully whatever ailment you're dealing with is getting better with that PT. We got Austin H saying, hello, everyone. Good to see you. Got our guy, Mark Schrader, saying good morning all over on YouTube. Ethan's in the house. Ethan, we talked about linebackers yesterday. I thought we'd like summon you. We said it 3 times in the mirror, but it didn't happen. But good to have you here today. Says, good morning, gents and Broncos country. Good to see you, Ethan. Chase Wellner, howdy, y'all. With the toast there. Maybe it's a waffle. I can't tell, but either way, it looks good. Jeremy
Toasted
Sean.
Waffle.
Just a waffle? Okay, well.
I think it's a toasted waffle, so there you go. Toasted. You're right both ways.
Okay. Sounds good. We love our breakfast foods. Jeremy Sean, morning, boys. This will be a pod to save and check your answers at the end of the season or not. How about we just don't hold us accountable at all?
Yeah, mine was bad last year. I think I was 11-6.
I mean,
maybe even 12-5. It was bad.
I think I was a little bit more conservative because of what can go wrong but I said like conservative.
You may have been 10-7 then because I think we were only a game off.
I was more conservative with 10 wins. Yes, exactly. Bama X, good morning, Broncos country. Good to see you, Bama X. Icky Dragon, y'all get pretty excited in the morning. Yeah, it's, we have to. We have a good time. Zach Powers, good morning. Good to see you. Jason Keller saying, good morning, Broncos country. Over the weekend, I got insulted by a Chargers fan at my local Walmart. Well, you found the one fan, so better. It's like finding Waldo. Good for them.
They're 4, according to Chase.
25% of the entire fan base. It's honestly, I feel bad for the Chargers, like as an organization, because they have a horrible owner. The Spanoses are just terrible, and they have a quarterback who is pretty darn special. I know the Justin Herbert discourse is weird, but like he has like 1,200 more yards than any quarterback's ever had through 3 seasons in the league, like 1,000 more, which is unbelievable. I mean, he's a pretty damn incredible quarterback, and it feels like just because the Chargers are the Chargers, A, he's not being appreciated like he should be for the quality he is, and B, no matter what, they get it wrong around him. So
this generations, if you figure, I was like, how I smack on the word generational. Well, let's call, instead of a generation, like 25 years is what a generation used to be. A football generation, we'll call it 10 to 12 because that's when a whole new cycle of players would come through.
Yeah.
So I will say he's more like this generation's Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is phenomenal talent. Never got any of his due at all. Got paid like he was. That was the point that was important for me. I was like, well, look how they paid him until he went to LA, until he got his ring with the Rams. Matthew Stafford was, I consider him one of the best arms I ever scouted coming through. and just a phenomenal talent. He's probably been in the league at least 10 years by now, because I went and saw him a long time ago.
Yeah.
So the next generation of quarterbacks, Justin Herbert right now, is Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, well, I mean, 3 years, and they haven't really gotten around him totally right yet. But it's unfortunate that he's in the AFC West, because another team that you have to hurdle there, and the Chargers can't get it right like the Chiefs have. But it's a lot easier when you have a quarterback like that. God damn it. Troy Bauer coming in $9.99. Thank you so much, Troy. It says, hi, guys. What positions do you think the Broncos and hope we will fill with veterans after June 1st? And Ndamukong Suh, Toulouse? This is Toulouse? I don't know that name. Cam Fleming, Shelby Harris. I would be over the moon with Shelby Harris and Cam Fleming. Both those guys would be incredible to really fortify the depth of the trenches, which are concerning for me right now. The other one is probably a running back like a Kareem Hunt. I know the Broncos, Sean Payton said they expect, what's his name?
Javonte Williams.
I was like, Jamal Williams. No.
I've said that too for some reason. So
Jamal Williams is the funny running back.
That's why we just call him Pookie.
Yeah, Pookie Williams is going to be back. That's what they say, but like, I'll believe it when I see it, man. Like, the 18 months is typical for the 3 knee ligament tear, and the fact that they're talking about him being out there in like 10 months?
9, yeah.
9 is like, what? Like, I know that these are different type of humans, but like the ligaments are the ligaments,
baby, man.
Yeah. I don't know. But Fleming and Harris stand out for me. You'll have to tell us in the chat. Maybe you already did what the second name is there. Is that one stand out to you?
No, I do recognize the other guys though.
Yeah, Ndamukong Suh, of course.
Yeah, Cam Fleming, Shelby Harris. Shelby, I wonder a little bit, that's a culture fit thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is what does Vance Joseph think? What does Justin Simmons think?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the guys I'm asking on Shelby. Shelby was a big money guy, and now he was overpaid for his production and is now out of work, but he doesn't have to work. So he can sit back. We've talked about that before, Nick. Why haven't some of these guys signed? They'll sign. Dalton Reiser's out there. He'll sign somewhere. But he didn't get that big initial contract in the first week of free agency. So now what's the rush? Let me find the right spot for me, and I'll sit back and enjoy my time, enjoy my summer, work out, and then I'll find a spot. These guys will be in camp come August.
Yeah. They'll find a place, no doubt. But thank you so much, Troy, for the super there. And that reminds me, I should probably put up the banner that Chad says, you guys need to, told me that I need to do a better job of putting up the banner, just because that'll help get us some support. And speaking of support, Michael Ronquillo saying, good morning, Nick and Scott and Broncos for breakfast. Go Broncos and buck 'em. A big buck, you too, Michael. We appreciate you coming in. Hope you're doing well. We got Pearl Heater coming in saying, good morning. Good to see you. Shane's in the house saying, hello, Nick and Scott. Happy Tuesday. Our person, Jesse Hilborn, coming in saying, morning, everyone. No work today.
You may have seen me about 4 minutes ago. Let's see, about 5 minutes ago. That was when I read this one. I just pictured a paring knife going into my palm. As Jesse said, he's not going to work because he cut himself up. Well, get better, dude. I hope it was all superficial, maybe a little messy and a little scary, but nothing, no nerves, no tendons, nothing too bad.
Talking about ligaments and tendons. God, good luck, man. That's no fun. God bless that. I can't imagine. I'm a violinist. Like, my hands are, I'm very sensitive to my hands. Gyla Maple, super sticker coming in here, $19.99. Thank you so much, Gyla. It says good morning as well. Good to see you. Miguel Santa Steven, also a big time supporter, saying good morning, fellas.
And thanks for the stars, Miguel.
Thank you so much, Miguel. We got Greg Smith coming in saying good morning, Broncos for breakfast. Good morning to you. We got Philip Hagginson, our favorite Danish person out in Montana out there. You have to let us know if you are Danish, because that's just the double A there. It looks like it. But good morning to you. Richard Miles, good morning, Nick and Scott. Good to see you. Colin Wood, it's been a second. Saying Chargers have always had good quarterback play. They've never been able to scratch like we have for a quarterback. Yeah, Drew Brees, Dan Fouts.
Obviously, Phillip Rivers guy was okay.
I mean, yeah, he was really good. It's pretty incredible that they've had that little success with that run of quarterbacks.
And I mean, it's like the Packers. The Packers have had 3 quarterbacks in 50 years. Yeah. Well, must be nice. Some of us go through 3 quarterbacks in 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, eventually it'll come around and it'll balance out, at least unless Jordan Love's the next one.
How do you feel? How do you think Jordan Love feel? That's a lot of pressure, man.
You just got to be the best.
Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love.
Just got to be the best version of Jordan Love that he can be. That's all that matters. Hopefully he has good people around him to talk to him, other than week 7, where you want him to be bad versus the
But
Broncos.
that helps get me to the point, and I didn't know at the time. I guess, y'all have helped educate me on the Eli Manning thing. I was like, I grew up with Air Coryell and Dan Fouts. Why wouldn't you want to go to San Diego and play quarterback? And I guess it was a personality thing with some conflicts. But man, if I had my choice of being a gunslinging quarterback, San Diego or New York Giants.
Yeah.
New York Giants was LT and those guys, not,
Defense.
and Phil Simms was a good blue collar guy, but he wasn't slinging it around like those AFC guys in the sunny states like Marino and Fouts.
Yeah. No, it was a personnel thing. The Mannings absolutely despised. I can't remember if it was the coach or the owner, somebody in that Chargers organization. So the Mannings kind of can dictate some things. We have Reselling Adventures saying, good morning, gents. Just stopping in, but watch a full pod later as I do daily. Well, drop a review, a 5-star comment in the podcast. We appreciate that. It says, thanks for the content. We do appreciate you coming in and saying hello. We got Dominique in here. Morning, Broncos family. Much love to all in attendance. Good to see you. We appreciate you. And Jesse says, missed all my nerves and tendons. Play fiddle as well. You play the violin. That's cool. Awesome. Left hand is not going to be able to play anything for a while. Well, God, man, good luck. It's my I broke a finger before, and that was I got in trouble with my parents because the violin was a way to earn some scholarship money, and that's set you back a little bit. But anyway, we're getting on it here. Well, we're going to keep these shorters now that we're in the full off season thing. A little bit shorter going forward, which is, sorry guys, as long as super chats are coming in, we will be here hanging out. But overall, the shows will be a little shorter, and I wanted to get into the Broncos schedule here. So I probably should pull one up, huh, Scott?
I've got it. That's what that big delay. My slow motion grin was me pulling up the schedule here. So week 1, Las Vegas Raiders, and I would be at home, I would imagine. It doesn't say regular season week 1, Las Vegas Raiders, Empower Field at Mile High. So back-to-back games opening at home, Las Vegas Raiders and Washington Commanders. 2 paramounts of virtue in the NFL.
Well, maybe the Commanders will be a little bit better under new ownership, but we'll see. It will be interesting here. I got it pulled up. Let's see if that'll help as well. As long as I don't go super slow motion. There we go. That looks pretty good. Channel
Troy reminding us about the meet and greet, and I just did a quick look. Hopefully the Delta bots won't figure this out, but I just did a quick look on my flights for October 22nd. It's dirt cheap. I mean, I can take 3 of us out there for what it cost me to get out there last week. I'm like, I'm booking that son of a gun today, the flights. I'll fly there and back just for the miles, even if I can't go. So it's, I'm very excited. October 22nd, meet and greet. I'll probably come out Saturday, and then I will make Chad play a show on Saturday night where we can all get together. I mean, there's 50 of us there. That's enough paying a $5 cover to help pay for the band, right?
Yeah, I mean, you'd think so. So, I mean, I thought the tickets hadn't officially been for sale yet. I thought
my
that
plane ticket.
Okay. He says,
I don't care about the game. I happen to get a great ticket from D-Dub last year. If I get one of those again, I'm absolutely going. But I'm my travel. I'm there for the meet and greet, man.
Yeah, for sure. Well, maybe Broncos country can pay me not to go to the game since I'm 0-9. But maybe it's a gambler's house here, right? Every time it's new odds. So, but back to the schedule here. Raiders week 1. For some goddamn reason, the Raiders have been a thorn in the side for the Broncos here recently, even though they've been an equally bad team. They've just been able to get into the Broncos. But I think week 1, Sean Payton, Broncos country, I think Denver's going to win this game. I really do. I think that I'm curious to see what this Raiders defense looks like. Their secondary is an absolute trash heap, but they have some interesting defensive line talent. I mean, obviously they drafted Tyree Wilson. Max Crosby is probably the singular most underrated defensive player in football, in my opinion. He is really, really talented. And then they also have Chandler Jones still there. So Raiders are not obviously a pushover team, but I'm not a big Jimmy Garoppolo guy, and I'm not a big Josh McDaniels guy. So I think the Broncos end up winning that one, and I think they'll be favored as well.
Yeah, I think so too. I like your chances on that one, other than history, but it's a new slate. History is against you, but eventually that has to turn. As you always say, hey, we're one day closer to breaking that streak, because it will eventually get broken. Usually talking about the Chiefs, but in this case too. So, I think the difference here is the home game. You know, you played the Seahawks tight. It was actually one of your better games with a couple
Mhm.
of big gaffes that cost you the game. But the way the offense moved the ball, it was one of your better games. This one will be at home with a new regime, some new old faces. I like your chances against the Raiders.
Yeah, I think the Broncos will be favored in this one as well. So Broncos, I'm gonna have them going 1-0 here. Then we got the Washington Commanders the week after. Washington has a very good defense on paper. They play tough defense. I like that some of their playmakers as well. Terry McLaurin is an extremely talented, underrated wide receiver. Antonio Gibson is a great running back, can do a little bit of everything. Man, he'd be awesome in this Broncos offense now that I think about it. But I think the Broncos will be favored in this one as well. Sam Howell, Jacoby Brissett. I know that it's been popular to crap on Russell Wilson here of late, but NFL media and matchmakers, the people setting the spreads, like to crap on unknown quarterbacks just as much, if not more. So I think the Broncos will be favored in that one as
How
well.
would you know that?
Yeah.
Covering the Falcons, my God, you think Desmond Ritter had slept with somebody's wife or something or worse? That may not even be that bad. Appreciate you, David, coming in. Says good morning, guys. Love listening to you while I get ready for work. First road game, week 3 against the Dolphins. I think you will be underdogs in this one. I would probably go with the Dolphins on the road. Super hot and humid. Miami in September. Ugh. We were just talking about the weather. Miami in September is going to be rough. But 2 home games coming out of there 2-1, I think isn't a bad way to start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not at all. So 2-0, I think starting off 2 games at home also will be nice. We also had David Bishop coming in saying, good morning, guys. Love listening while I get ready for work. Well, we love you hanging out with us, David. We hope you're doing well. We also got Bama X coming in saying, do y'all think another reason that Peyton grabbed Stidham was to get more insight on a divisional rival? Not saying that's the only reason, but as we all know, Peyton is the ultimate competitor. I don't think you bring in a quarterback and pay him that much money for a team that is not really a hurdle to much this season. I mean, the Broncos are not, it's not like the Broncos are, I better get rid of this so we can see Scott's face. The Broncos are a Raiders defeat away from, there he goes, a Raiders defeat away from greatness, Super Bowl championship. So, I mean, it's an added benefit, but I don't think it was at all in the equation for bringing in Stidham.
I think it was about Jarrett Stidham, not about the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yep, exactly.
You figured Jarrett Stidham or Brett Rippon last year. Okay, you got a major upgrade. And your backup quarterback. Jarrett Stidham is a legitimate NFL quarterback. Brett Rippon was a legitimate future NFL offensive coordinator.
Yep. I mean, it's going to be like last year. Do you think the Broncos would have gone to the backup quarterback earlier when Russell Wilson was dealing with a hammy and playing like garbage? If they had a better quarterback that they trusted, because I mean, Brett Rippon, I mean, God bless him.
Last year.
You don't think so?
This year, yes, not last year.
Because
last year, it just seems like it was. I mean, I think Nathaniel Hackett was really just trying to tell us something, because all he would ever say in press conferences was Russell this, Russell. We got to make Russell feel comfortable. Russell. I think it was his way of passively aggressively saying, I got no say here, man. This is all about Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's not all about Russell now, which is good. But speaking about all about Russell, moving on here. Hopefully the Broncos are not all about Russell in this next game. We have, and it's all good, Bam X. It's a good question. No issue there. Just curious. We have next one is on the road at the Miami Dolphins. Playing Miami early is rough. Broncos, I think, are horrible in the state of Florida in like the month of September. So I have this one penciled in as lost. I think Miami will be favored by like 5.5 or so. So I have Miami pulling this one out.
Yeah, and that's why we mentioned that one already. So Nick agrees. So you're 2-1 going to Chicago for week 4. This one becomes really interesting. It's a winnable game, but Chicago's got some excitement going. So week 4, you'll know what you've got in Chicago by then. Are they 0-3? We've got to find a new quarterback. Or are they playing with some momentum? This is one of those, for me, this is one of those wild card games. Like, I can look at week 6 and go, okay, I know what I'm going to get. Week 4 is a wild card for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, I'm not sure. I mean, it should still be pretty damn good weather in Chicago in October, that time of year. Like, October is gorgeous in upper Midwest area. So that is a interesting game, especially coming off the East Coast trip. Are the Broncos going to stay out on the East Coast? They're going to fly back. I did hear that Sean Payton mentioned that if we have like night games, we're going to stay in the city afterwards rather than flying back and like landing at 3 a.m.
Oh, I hate that. I agree with him.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the players are responsible and don't go out and stay out even later than they would have gotten back. But yes, that's and they're adults, but I mean, sometimes adults don't make good decisions. But yeah, I think this Bears game is definitely a toss up. It's too early also in the season to really have an idea of what the Bears will be. They could be 2-1, but still be terrible, right? The Bears last year, week 1, beat the 49ers in a
How did the 49ers, they lose to the Broncos, the Bears, and the Falcons? Talk about playing your competition. It's like, we beat the teams we need to beat. That's a strange season for the 49ers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a weird year, especially with all the Brock Purdy stuff as well. So we have Zach Powers saying, unfortunately, I feel like we are one of the teams that gets counted as a win for other teams when we show up on their schedule. That's one that right now, I mean, until the Broncos start winning and get some games, I'll say that. I'm going to have the Broncos win this game in Chicago still. I think the Bears defense is an absolute trash heap, and I'm not a big believer in Matt Eberflus, even though they invested a lot in that offense. And I also am a big Justin Fields fan, but I think the Broncos end up winning that game.
Yeah, I mean, they finished with the number 1 overall pick for a reason. Have they improved enough over the course of one offseason to not be really, really bad? Maybe. Like I said, this one's a wild card for me. Maybe the most interesting game on the schedule for me, mentioned the teams against the teams that you're playing is the Jets.
Yep.
Coming back home week 5 with the Jets. Nathaniel Hackett back on the sidelines where he didn't get to finish last year. The Jets were a decent team last year. They were fighting for a playoff spot. I know that just means you need to hang around 500, but still, they were a decent team last year, and their quarterback play was horrific. It was as bad, if not worse, than what you got from the Denver Broncos. So that tells me I plug in Aaron Rodgers, I've got an immediate upgrade. Well, Aaron Rodgers, he's not as good as he used to. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. He doesn't have to be for them to get, if he's even average NFL, you just moved up 2 spots at the quarterback position for a team that was pretty competitive. This is a very compelling team to me. I'm like I said, I don't care that if Aaron Rodgers is an MVP caliber quarterback anymore. He's still going to be a good quarterback when they had bad quarterback play. I always think against teams, fairly level, give a nod to the home team, especially when you're coming off two wins like this, 2 road games like this. But I'm very intrigued to watch the Jets this year.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think the Broncos will be favored in this one unless the Jets are on a heater, but I think the Jets end up winning this one. I think that this is going to be a tough game for the Broncos and Nathaniel Hackett revenge tour, right? That kind of thing. And I think the Jets have a very, like you mentioned, underrated roster overall. I think Garrett, they had the offensive and defensive rookies of the year last year in Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner. They like a lot, but they have their defense, or not their defense, their offensive line is a big question mark. Right now, I don't like a lot. They have your guy Elijah Vera Tucker out there, but the overall, like the tackle position and the overall offensive line for the Jets is pretty concerning. I don't believe for a second that they were targeting Will McDonald all along. I think the Steelers jumped him for Broderick Jones, who they were targeting because they need tackle help because Mekhi Becton has not been able to stay healthy. But I think I'm going to pick the Jets in this one. So that would put the Broncos at, in my opinion, 3-2.
Well, I've heard people say, oh, this schedule's not that bad. It's not that tough. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, well, compared to the Falcons schedule, which is like,
Falcons
oh my
are
God.
playing.
I'm like, Dolphins on the road, Chiefs on the road, Bills on the road, Chiefs at home, all in your first 10 games. You're going to be underdogs. 9 games, you're underdogs in 4 of those. Yep. Without a doubt. Okay. So even if you're favored in the other 5, let's say it goes to form, you're looking at 5-4 in week 10. This schedule's no gimme.
No, I think it does clear up a little bit after about like that last line there. That last one is not as difficult, but this is a tough schedule overall, unfortunately, because the Broncos getting matched up with the AFC East is not great, and also the getting matched up with the NFC North. But yeah, and it's just the AFC West is so tough, man. Miguel Santa-Stevenson, I think 4-2 is very possible the first 6 weeks. I think Denver upsets KC and KC. Well, you might believe that, Miguel, but I'm going to have Denver losing this game in Kansas City. I think that's one that's going to be hard for them. So this, unfortunately, would have the Broncos at 3-4 in the first 7 games of the year.
Yeah, and I don't think 2-4 is out of the question, honestly, in the first 6. Um, Raiders and Commanders. Okay, you go 2-0, but let's say you split. Those are going to be two pretty evenly matched teams. Again, was it Chase or Jeremy just said? Unfortunately, these are teams that are going to mention when you're looking at wins. Okay, we can win this game too. Whenever the Denver Broncos are on the schedule, we mentioned. I think 9 wins. I'm being conservative and predicting 9 wins. Well, that's doubling your wins. That's a lot. So you go 2-0 but if you split those games, split those next 2, which is no gimme on the road in the NFL. You're 2-2. Jets at home could be a legitimate contender for a late playoff run, depending on how quickly Aaron Rodgers goes. And then KC on the road. You're not out of the realm of possibility of 2-4 on this. Appreciate the stars, Miguel. I think 4-2 and 4-2 in those 6, and we're talking playoffs. We're talking playoffs, Nick.
Yeah. It's definitely possible. It's gonna be a pretty tough schedule here for the Broncos. But yeah, I have the Broncos at this one. Excuse me, I misspoke earlier. So they would be 3-3, with wins weeks 1, 2, and 4, and losses weeks 3, 5, and 6. Are you with me in 3-3, or are you at 2-4?
I think 3-3 is fair. Because I think you can, looking at those first 4 games, you really need to be 3-1. Someone else just said that too in the chat. Says we need to be 3-1 coming out of this, and there's no need. I mean, you can go on a heater at the end and win 4, and you're in the playoffs. But it'd be nice for momentum, for backing, for buying into everything you're doing. So 3-3 is okay for me, but I see 2-4 more than I see 4-2, Nick.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you. I mean, it's just it's hard for us to believe in this team after last season. But then you look at a lot of the outside factors, right? The coaching incompetency, the terrible injury luck, the 1-score game luck, like these things that should regress positively for the Broncos. Like the team that we saw last year was better than what they were on the field, right?
They
just
weren't
based
that
on all
far
these
off,
factors.
but again, everybody else is trying to get better too.
Oh yeah.
That's the point that I want to try and make is, the Raiders have had your number. Okay. That's no gimme, for goodness sakes.
No.
Washington should be a win, but it's the NFL. You never know what should happen. Doesn't always happen. You're going to be a pretty good underdog on the road against the Fish. You got your wild card game, like I said, with the Bears. You're penciling that game as a winnable game. Jets, home game, winnable game. Kansas City on the road, you've played them tight but haven't gotten over the hump. You're going to see a lot of close football games, Nick.
Yeah.
So if you regress back, like you said, where I've got somebody who knows how to control the clock and play to win games in the fourth quarter instead of what we saw last year, you can take some of those 1-score games and flip it a little bit.
Yeah. One big negative too here, that looking at that week 6 game, is Thursday night. So you play home and then you go on the road on a short week to Kansas City. Chiefs are going to be favored by like 8 in that one. And that'll be a rough one for the Broncos to win. Obviously things can happen between now and then, but I think that's probably the most improbable victory for the Broncos this entire season on their schedule.
The Chiefs game is before that. So that is, I'll probably, see, I'm freezing up here. StreamYard, you got to get this better. So that's week 5. Who are they playing week 5?
The Jets.
Week 5, they've got
the Chiefs.
They're at Minnesota. So they'll be on the road coming home for a short week. So they're at Vikings before they turn around and play the night game against the Broncos. So it's no easy slate for Kansas City either, which makes you feel a little better. Sometimes you're like, oh yeah, they're on a bye on a short week. Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, Minnesota to Kansas City is like a 3.5-hour flight. That's a pretty easy one.
Yeah, but still, it's still a road game against a good opponent, and with short week of preparation.
Yeah,
that you are traveling, so it's not easy.
Yeah. So I think I have the Broncos at 3-3 for that first third there. Moving forward now, the Broncos week 7 streak's going to be broken. My streak's going to be broken. I think the Broncos end up beating the Packers. They have extra time to prepare in that one, and I think Denver typically plays Green Bay pretty darn well in Mile High. So that'll be a fun game. I think Denver is going to take it to the Packers. I think the Packers got a lot of good defense on paper, but I think they're going to have Jordan Love's number in that game. The Packers' weaponry, offensive line is kind of starting to regress a bit. I think the Broncos end up winning that one. I think they'll be favored by about 4.
Yeah, the meet and greet, Packers home, coming back, long week to prepare. I like your chances in that one. That should be a and it's funny. I've heard people kind of poo poo this game, like, oh, it's not a marquee matchup for the meet and greet. It's the Packers, man. I mean, it's still the Packers. Doesn't matter where they are right now as a franchise. It's still the Green Bay Packers. This is a marquee franchise in the NFL. I'm excited about that matchup. Better than the Texans. I'm excited to be able to go and see the Packers and Broncos. I do like that one. Jeremy asked, who do the Chiefs have in Week 7? And as I scroll down, they've got the Chargers. So they've got a Sunday evening game against the Chargers Week 7, and then have to come to their Chargers at home and then go to Denver. So there's a big one right there.
Mm-hmm.
You can win the Packers. You can beat the Chiefs and go into that bye week with a little momentum. You're going to be feeling pretty good about life.
I agree with you. I'm not going to ever pick the Broncos over Kansas City until I actually see it in real life.
Yeah,
until
I'm going to keep saying Chiefs until I'm wrong.
Yep. I mean,
hopefully that's quick.
By week 6, that'd be amazing. But I cannot. The Broncos haven't beaten the Chiefs since week 2, 2015. I mean, Jesus bleeping, sorry for that's unbelievable. That is unbelievable. So
it really is. You look at it and just say, I'm starting to change a little bit, but I used to say, who's going to win the national championship? Alabama. What do you know about them? Nothing. I know they're Alabama. Half the time I'm going to be right. If by just picking them. So, I'll pick the Chiefs just because of that until you beat the Chiefs. So until I'm wrong, I will say Chiefs on this one. So that's the bad part of this. You got the Chiefs twice in the first 8 weeks, and you haven't beaten that team in 15 tries. And then you get a bye week, which is nice, but then you go to Monday night, the Buffalo Bills. Man.
I think that's a loss as well.
You go 3 out of 4 games is Chiefs, Packers, Chiefs, Bills. Ouch. Who said this was an easy schedule?
Yeah, it's not easy. Luckily it clears up a little bit after this. But Scott, it's been 2,795 days since the Broncos have beaten the Chiefs. So I'm not picking them.
2015, I was still living in New Jersey.
Yeah.
That was a lifetime ago, man.
It's a long time. And Craig Smith says, Nick, my voodoo doll says otherwise versus the Chiefs. Well, I hope your voodoo doll doesn't get anybody seriously hurt, but that'd be great.
What we used on Jesse?
Yeah, God.
Jesse, get a voodoo doll. You've already got the blood for it.
Yeah, and we also have Keith Brugman saying, good morning. Does anyone have a new staff scheme help us or hurt us taking account the entire season? I mean, going from Ejiro Evero to Vance Joseph is probably going to be a slight step back, but you should see a bigger step forward on the offensive side of the ball, and the defense sees a step back. So I think the defense will be a little worse, but not enough to overcome the excitement of the offensive side of the ball. And it is unfortunate that Sean Payton really wanted to work with Vic Fangio, but Vic gave the poo-poo to come into Denver. Just a little too fresh, too many guys that he knows, which understandable.
I'm not so worried about that. It's an advantage. Normally it might be a little bit of a disadvantage, new scheme, blah, 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 but you were so inept last year on the offensive side of the ball. The danger in this, y'all, is we're just making an assumption that the defense isn't going to take a step backwards. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, if they take one step back, that's fine, because the offense should take 3 steps forward. But don't do anything too crazy. Let the guys be who they are, and you should have the upgrades on defense through free agency and the draft should help. But in health should be a big factor too. But I don't think we can just go in assuming that the defense is going to be playing as well as they did for the first 13 games of the season, Nick. Yeah. But Colin says, how can this be a last place schedule? Mathematically, it works out that way, Colin. The problem is you're in the AFC West, which is tough. And then you got matched up with the AFC East, which when you've got an improving Jets team and a Dolphins team that's playing well, then you got the Bills and the Patriots who have been pretty good for a few years. It becomes harder. Mm-hmm. But anytime you see 3 out of 4 games that say Chiefs, Bills, who's staying there? That's not an easy stretch right there. You got to survive that and then come home week 11, Vikings for a night game, Browns. If there's a more dysfunctional franchise in this history of this league, I haven't seen it, and I've watched a lot of them. Texans, then you got 3 straight road games on there. Texans could be in a world of hurt by then. You're not sure. You're not sure where the Chargers are going to be, and the Lions are kind of a late season wild card. They could be a team that is fighting for playoffs, or they could be a team that's tanking for their next quarterback. So that one's really a wild card game too, Nick.
Yeah, this is a tough schedule. Right now I have the Broncos at 4-5, unfortunately, with a loss week 10. Moving along, I think talking about how much the Broncos had bad luck last year, the Vikings had all the good luck. So I think this is a major regression team for the Vikings. I have Denver winning that one to get them back at 5-5. Then I also have them, and I think they'll be favored versus the Vikings. And I also have the Broncos beating the Cleveland Browns. This is one of the 3. Talk about a last place schedule. Who are the teams that are different on the schedule for the Broncos because they finished where they finished last year? You have the game versus the Cleveland Browns. That's the last place in the AFC North. You're not playing the other AFC North teams. You have the game against the Texans. That's last place in the AFC South. And then you also have there should be one NFC team here that stands out. That's
Bears. No, that's North.
It's Commanders. Yeah, because you're playing the NFC East this year, so the Commanders are the one that stand out. So, I mean, your last place schedule, you earned the Commanders, Browns, and Texans. That is last place. It's just the other stuff kind of stinks for the Broncos. But I have them at 6-5, finishing that second line there. Battling right about 500. I think they got a chance there.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's not a good thing when you can remember the last win from a long time ago it sticks out because there just haven't been enough of them. But Miguel reminds us with some stars too. Thank you, Miguel. He says that last dub against KC was the walk-off in Kansas City. Demaryius Thomas called out Charles holding the ball loose, and I want to see that magic again.
Yeah, I mean, I'll believe it when we see it. Broncos have been beaten down by Kansas City too much, but one day they'll win. One day they'll win. Keith trying to phrase his question better. How much does an advantage is an unknown scheme to help the Broncos early, especially in the opening games? It's as much of an advantage as it is a disadvantage because the Broncos are trying to work in a new scheme. If anything, it's honestly on the defensive side of the ball a little bit of a disadvantage because the communication and cohesion defenses you typically see get a little bit better when they come together later in the season. So
and as long as injuries are the opposite, because it's harder to play offense. Because defense, you can rely on individuals to end a game and end a play. Where offense, it takes one guy to wreck a play in a negative manner. In a positive manner, I might not know what I'm doing, but Zach Allen goes in and sacks a quarterback. Okay, well, good. Yeah. Drew Sanders ran the wrong direction. Who cares? Zach took care of the quarterback. But you can have one guy miss a blocking assignment and it just wrecks a play or drop a ball or anything like that. And we saw it last year with the cohesion with Russell Wilson, and the trust of his receivers and his offensive line just was non-existent. All of those things should get better, but it's still going to be new-ish. Having Tim Patrick out there, second year with Greg Dulcich, the personnel, and Russell Wilson being in there, having gone through what he went through last year, a second year in Denver, having been humbled, should be a lot of help, especially that he's got one of the best offensive coaches of our generation.
Yeah, it'll be tough. I mean, I guess I was thinking more of the back end of the defense, where you really need the defense is the back seven and coverage and run fits is a first to fail system, where the pass rush is a first to win system.
Have you ever gone to an all-star game, like practice weeks for something like that, like Senior Bowl or anything like that?
Yeah, the defense typically wins day one in the
how
trenches.
hard it is to install an offense.
Yeah.
And switch out quarterbacks or anything like that. Now, they won't be doing that, and they'll have more time to work. But trying to install an offense is hard. If they switch quarterbacks, there's usually like 3 false starts in a row before they can even get a snap off, and then it's usually a fumble. So there's so much more of the cohesion for me that is involved in having a finely tuned offense as opposed to defense, which is know your assignment and play hard. You know, there's a lot of passion and athleticism involved on the defensive side of the ball. And that shouldn't be as much of a change as what Sean Payton will try and do with that offense.
Yeah. That's another thing too. I trust Sean Payton, even if it's going to be a little rougher earlier. And also neither the Raiders or the Washington Commanders or the Miami Dolphins or the Chicago Bears or the New York Jets or the Kansas City Chiefs none of these teams are playing or changing any of it. As far as I know, no defensive coordinator. You have Vic Fangio at the Dolphins playing there. We didn't even talk about that coming up, but that'll be fun. But moving on here. So I got the Broncos at 6-5. I don't know what you have them at after this first 3 games. I'm going to have them at 7-5, playing the Houston Texans there, though. Houston on the road. Houston, I think it's not a very good team. So 7-5 there for the Broncos.
Where am I after 9 weeks? 5-4, maybe 4-5. I haven't been keeping track quite as much, but if you're 5-4, it'd be nice to get those 2 home wins.
You're right.
Then you can go 6-4, 7-4, go on the road 8-4, and then you don't know what you're doing with, then yeah. See, it eases up the second half of the schedule for sure if you have some positive momentum going and you've stayed healthy. Players are starting to buy in and believe, and you start seeing, it's all coming together, Pepper. You start seeing all that stuff working. The second half of the schedule is much more favorable once you clear that Bills hurdle, where you could be going against the Detroit Lions. You could be going against who are, like I said, they're a wild card. People are talking playoffs with them, but it's still the Lions. No offense, Lions fans. You know what I mean. The Patriots, they might be this close to saying we need a change in Bill Belichick. He's past it. And maybe that's happening. The Chargers could be in it. They could be out of it. And the Raiders could be on their third coach by then.
Yeah.
The second half, the first half of the schedule is like, eesh. Second half is like, okay, if we can survive the first half, we can really make a run in the second half. Yeah. 500 or so through week 10, 4-5, 5-4, and you're right there. You're right there.
And that's what I had, 4-5. Those first 2 games are really important, man. They got to come out 2-0 in those first 2 games. But yeah, I think the Broncos end up losing weeks 14 and 15, back-to-back road games. I'm going to have them split with the Chargers, give away that next one. And I think the Lions are feisty, a really tough team. And I know luckily it's a dome, I guess, out there. But it could be pretty damn tough week 15 on the Lions. It's too bad they built such a slugger team to play in an indoor stadium. I guess it is unbelievably bitter cold in Detroit in this time of year, December. But with how they play and how their offensive line is built right now, if they could be an outside team, man, that would be pretty damn fun for them. But I had the Broncos then, so they were at 6-5, 6-6, 6-7, unfortunately, there after that week 15 game. I have them right around 500, but I'll just give it away. I think they're going to close out the season really strong. I got 3 wins in a row here against the Patriots, against the Chargers, and on the road at Vegas. So that would put them at, let me see, I had them at 6-7. So 10-7?
7-7. I'm counting them up too, because that's 3 straight. I'd go 2 out of 3 for a 9-8.
9-8. Maybe I'll have them losing to the Raiders now that I think about it.
Yeah,
it's on the road.
3 in a row. Something happens where you win 2 out of those 3. And Jesse says, awesome dodgeball reference. Actually, Major League. Starting to come together, Pepper. So that was I got 9-8 on this somewhere. And obviously you're not going to say you're going to win win or 2 that you weren't expecting. You're going to lose 1 or 2 that you probably weren't expecting. Like you said, those first 2 are really important. But if you come out of that 1-1, and hey, you beat the Chiefs once out of those, and you catch the Buffalo Bills on a San Francisco 49ers type of day, they don't go undefeated. And then again, that bottom row is so intriguing. The Texans, are they starting to show life? They started to show life last year around that time. Or are they packing it in and, getting another high draft pick that they've traded away? They did. They traded away that top one, didn't they?
Yep, that's to the Cardinals.
Chargers, Lions. Like I said, Lions and the Jets are very similar teams to me. They could go either way. Then the Patriots should always be tough. Chargers have been tough. But of the AFC West teams, they're the only ones you've beaten recently. And then the Raiders. The Raiders are always a show.
Yeah. Damn Raiders. Well, I think overall, like 9-8, about 10 wins should be pretty good. Overall, 8.5. And last thing, Vegas has them at 8.5. I think that's a great number. I wouldn't put them anywhere else but 8.5. That seems exactly right. Last season, how they were. People don't trust Russell Wilson. We don't know how the dynamics is going to work out with Sean Payton. But Broncos have a lot of things that we mentioned earlier, that trend to push the outside numbers would say they're due for some positive regression this season. So 8.5 is a good number. 9-8 seems possible. It'd be very fun to be 9-7 going into that week 18 game with a chance to win and go to the playoffs. That's all I ask for, to have a meaningful game in week 18, a win or go home. Let's make that playoffs Not the playoffs yet, but a
And if
play
it's
play-in
not
game.
meaningful, it's because you've already clinched. That'd be nice.
Oh, that'd be even nicer. Yeah,
You
that'd
know
be nice
what's fun is playing on a Thursday night and winning, and then watching everybody else beat the hell out of each other over the weekend. That's fun.
Yeah.
Be nice to come in and get that win on Thursday night with the Chiefs, and then kick back and wait for the meet and greet on week 7. That adds a little bit extra energy, and always bringing us energy. Ethan, the DWI guys, he says 9-8 seems realistic based upon last year, baby steps, and I actually think that's a pretty good leap. We're talking all of the things that went wrong, and we're almost assuming that they've been corrected. We think they have. We've addressed some of those positions. The right tackle, McGlinchey, is he going to be a big step up? Maybe he's a big step up in price. The center position is still a bit of a question mark. We think we should be get better with Ben Powers at guard. Tim Patrick should be coming back and doing better. The second half of that schedule, maybe you start getting back a Javonte Williams ready to come back and truck people. The one thing I'm just dang near sure about is the offensive cohesion on this team will be better. One way or another, it's got to be better because it can't get worse. I mean, we know we say that and we cringe when we say that, Nick. It really can't get any worse on offense than we saw last year. It just can't.
Oh, God, I hope you're right.
Hi, Jog.
Yeah, that's I guarantee it. But I guarantee that Ethan's helping us keep the lights on. $100, Ethan, with the big super chat there. Thank you so much, man. It really, really makes a world of difference to Scott and I's, not only the show, but our lives. So, thank you so much. I mean, this helps, get tickets for the Broncos games and stuff like that. And hopefully we can see a lot of you guys out there. Who has a better record at the end of the season than Broncos or Falcons? The Broncos would be like a 10-point or a 10-win team if they had the Falcons schedule. The Falcons schedule, we went through it and it's like, oh my God, where's the tough game? Like,
you look at the Falcons schedule and you start going, dude, 12-5 is not out of the question here.
Yeah,
the Falcons schedule is ridiculous. They got matched up. Y'all got the AFC East and the North. So the East is the trouble. The Falcons got the AFC South as their mix. So they got their opposite schedule is Titans, Texans, Colts, and Jaguars. Meanwhile, y'all got the North, which is improving. The Lions are definitely improved. The Packers are always a tougher team. So it's I would think at the end of the season, who has the better record? I will put my money on the Falcons if they played each other. They played each other right now early in the schedule. I think that the Falcons are just, year 3 of a system. I would say the Falcons would probably be favored right now by week 9 or 10. I don't know. We'll see. But the Falcons schedule is crazy soft.
It really is. I was just looking at it here. So they play the NFC North as well. But they're also playing one of their crossover games is the Arizona Cardinals. Which is, God, that's about as easy as it gets. You also have them playing why do I keep getting the wrong schedule?
And the thing is that they get 6 games against the NFC South and 4 games against the AFC South. There's 10 games.
Yeah. Yeah. You also get up against the
highest ranked team in there, I think, is 16 in those 10 games is maybe the Saints.
Yeah, and you also don't you play the Jets too?
Play the Jets, and I think that's at home. Another part of it is like the tougher games are home games.
Yeah. Yeah, the Falcons have a very no excuse schedule this season, so it'll be fun. Broncos got a tougher one, and that's okay. Now it is what it is.
Be one of those 12-5 teams that's the first round out when they actually play somebody.
I just get in. That's all that matters. Get in and let's see what happens. But guys, we're going to wrap it on up and get on out of here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We really do appreciate that. Make sure you are following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at BFB_pod and at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, join our Facebook groups, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. If you're listening after the fact, find us on Apple Podcasts, find us on Spotify, leave us a 5-star review and a rating. We do appreciate that. And as the ticker says underneath, please subscribe, like, and share if you're joining us on the YouTube side of things. YouTube is where we have most of you all hanging out with us, and you can click that bell notification to know in that way when we go live. Today we were about 5-10 minutes late, but we knew it was going to be a little shorter show today. We are still ending at about the same time, though. So, Scott, any thoughts before we get on out of here?
No, I appreciate our little group therapy sessions that we have during the day. That was the Joker, by the way. I needed this today. So I told Nick when I started, I said, today is one of those days I'm just going to try and survive and just get through. So this is always a big help. Can't tell you how much y'all mean to me and all the support you give through the day, the conversation. So thanks for letting me hang out with y'all for an hour.
Yeah, we really do appreciate all y'all guys and gals. And Scott, hopefully the rest of your day is perked up now after getting a little serotonin boost from the chat. So appreciate everyone. Have a great day. Continue to choose kindness and compassion. Go Broncos.